Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, November the 13th, and it's 9 a.m. And I would like to welcome you to the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers. Ms. Bohannon, would you please call the roll?
Dennis Bridges.
Here.
Robert Davis.
Here.
Jeff Duffer.
Here.
Clark McKinney.
Here.
Charles Rahm.
Here.
Robert Shackelford.
Here.
Mr. President, all board members are here and accounted for.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa. First item we need to address is the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So move. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Cochran, a second by Mr. Davis to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
We have the minutes from the October 9th meeting that we need to approve. I think most of us have had a chance to review those. If not, we'll take a minute to do that.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McKinney, a second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the rulemaking update. Mrs. Hooper?
Good morning, Board. I just wanted to update you all on the rules. Those rules have been submitted to the Office of the Attorney General for final signature, and once those are signed, they will be filed with the Secretary of State's office and posted to their website, and the rules become effective. The rules become effective 90 days after filing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hooper. Any questions for her in regards to that update? If not, we'll move on to the legal report. Mrs. Gino?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
let the record reflect that I'm recusing myself from any discussions and all votes pertaining to the November 13th, 2018 legal report.
All right, we'll note that Mr. Shackelford has recused himself from the legal report. Ms. Gino?
Good morning. The first item on the legal report today is complaint number 2018-61791. This is an establishment with some disciplinary history. In August 2018, a board field representative performed a routine inspection of the respondent establishment. During the inspection, the representative discovered the following. 1. The manager's licenses were not available for review at the time of the inspection. 2. Another individual's funeral director and embalmer licenses were also not available for review at the time of the inspection. 3. The crematory license was not available for review at the time of the inspection. 4. The preparation room was disorderly/cluttered and in need of a cleaning. 5. There were issues with the respondent's CPL. Specifically, a casket listed with immediate burial on the GPL needed to be added to the CPL. 6. One SFGSS contract had pricing that was inconsistent with the GPL. In response, respondent's attorney indicated, 1. The licenses at issue are kept at the location but may have been misfiled at the time of the inspection. This has been corrected and additional copies have been filed at the location. 2. While the preparation room required cleaning and order on the day of the inspection, it could not have been done as soon as practicable by the respondent prior to the inspection because the room had been recently used for body preparation and a new embalming machine had been delivered and installed. As such, the shipping box and associated paperwork were still present in the room. In addition, clothing associated with the preparation of the body had been delivered for laundry. 3. The CPL has been corrected. And 4. The SFGSS contract at issue was an error on the part of a funeral director who no longer works at the respondent establishment. This error has since been corrected and the account adjusted to reflect the correct price. Legal's recommendation is authorization for a formal hearing, authorization of a civil penalty in an amount of $1,000.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McKinney, a second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the legal report today is complaint number 2018-06-4651. This is an establishment with some disciplinary history. In August 2018, a board field representative performed a routine inspection of the respondent establishment. During the inspection, the representative discovered the following. 1. The casket listed with immediate burial needed to be corrected on the GPO. 2. Alternative containers needed to be added to the CPO. 3. An effective date and caption needed to be added to the top of the CPL. 4. Respondent's website prominently displays a photograph of the owner, but does not indicate that he is not a licensed funeral director or embalmer. 5. Respondent's website fails to provide the names and titles of each employee in such a way that is easily understood and their statuses as to license. And 6. Respondent's website implied one of its employees was an assistant funeral director. In response, respondent indicated, 1. The GPL and CPL have been corrected accordingly. 2. The photograph of the owner has been removed from the website and any other mention of him has been deleted, except he has been listed once as the owner and non-licensed. And 3. The website has been corrected to reflect staff as non-licensed and there is no mention of a funeral assistant. Recommendation, authorization for a formal hearing, authorization of a civil penalty in an amount of $500.
You know, I have a question that might probably need to be directed to Mr. Gribble. When an inspector goes in, does he automatically look at the website at that point, or does he look at that website before he goes into the premises, or do you know?
Typically, the field rep will look at the website prior to going to the location and may, at the location, ask them to pull it up to make sure that if there's something that's he may have noticed a day or two before he went to see if it's been changed at that point. Or he can have that discussion with the establishment manager or employee.
Thank you. I felt that was the way it was across the state. That's how it has been with my location.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McKinney, a second by Mr. Bridges. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Gino?
The next item on the legal report is complaint number 2018-06-4671 against an establishment with no disciplinary history. In August 2018, a board field representative performed a routine inspection of the respondent establishment. During the inspection, the representative discovered the following. 1. 4 SFGSS contracts were not available for review at the time of the inspection. 2. A co-owner's business card did not reflect that he is neither a licensed funeral director nor embalmer. And 3. An employee's business card did not reflect that she is neither a licensed funeral director nor embalmer. In response, respondent indicated, 1. The 4 SFGSS contracts are being corrected, And 2, the business cards at issue have been corrected and now provide, quote, non-licensed funeral director / non-licensed embalmer, close quote. Recommendation, letter of warning.
I have a question on one. It says the contracts were not available for review, but then the response, it said that the contracts are being corrected.
Where were they? Or were they not? Were they missing, or were there just something wrong with them? Do you know?
Let me pull up my file real quick just to make sure I give you a correct answer on that one. So, according to our inspector, the 4 contracts were not available for review, and in the respondent's response, they said that that was being corrected.
Therefore, I can only assume that they located those contracts and put them in the appropriate files. That's the only way to correct something like that.
I was just wondering, had it ever been filled out, or had they been misplaced, or the field rep didn't make that plain, I guess.
Right. The field rep just said that the 4 contracts were not available for review.
Okay.
Further discussion?
Since there was no history, disciplinary action, I'll move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McKinney, a second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Gino?
The next item on the legal report is complaint number 20180679191 against an establishment with no disciplinary history. A complainant filed a complaint because she has yet to receive her deceased son's death certificate. Her son passed away in July of 2018. However, in her complaint, she indicated the ER physician has refused to sign the death certificate. She believes the respondent should be doing more to get the certificate signed. In response, respondent indicated it worked on trying to get the physician to sign the certificate, and many phone calls were made to the physician's office. Respondent also indicated that the county medical examiner's office agreed to sign their certificate on September 20th, 2018. Respondent indicated the death certificates were ordered on September 24th, 2018, and were mailed out by the county health department on September 25th, 2018. After communicating with the health department, however, respondent realized the death certificates were mailed to the address of the deceased and not the complainant. Respondent indicated this has since been corrected and had sent an amendment to the state to change the complainant's address on the death certificate to reflect her correct address from the deceased's address. Respondent further indicated it did not advise complainant of this because complainant requested the respondent not contact her again. After complainant received the response to the complaint, she paid for and received another copy of the death certificate. Legal's recommendation would be to close.
Accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Duffer, a second by Mr. Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
The next two items on the report are related. The first is complaint number 2018-069-121 against an establishment with some disciplinary history, and the second is complaint number 2018-068181 against a funeral director with no disciplinary history. Complainant claimed respondents picked up her deceased husband from the hospital without permission and embalmed him without permission. In response, respondents provided a release of body form from the hospital signed by complainant indicating she gave permission to the hospital to release the body to the respondent establishment. Embalming was also checked off on the form. Legal's recommendation would be to close the complaint against the establishment and close the complaint against the funeral director.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Duffer, a second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor?
Aye.
The next two items on the legal report are related. The first is complaint number 2018-069-171 against an establishment with no disciplinary history. And the second is complaint number 2018-068-501 against a funeral director with some disciplinary history. Complainant made several allegations against respondent funeral director, including 1. His appearance and demeanor were not acceptable. 2. He did not provide the family with a price list. 3. He pointed out the cheapest casket and vault. 4. He put a plastic vault in the graveside when a concrete vault was paid for. 5. He did not offer to bring chairs or the register book to the complainant's house. And 6. He did not play all of the songs the family requested at the service. In addition, complainant also alleged the family was not asked about what they wanted in the obituary, and when the obituary was printed, burial service was omitted. In response, respondent's attorney provided a letter signed by respondents which indicated 1. Complainant was shown a price list. Respondents also provided an FTC disclosure form signed by the complainant indicating he received price lists. 2. The family was shown the lowest priced casket and vault in an effort to keep the family's expenses low since the family had indicated the services would be a financial burden to them. 3. Ground staff mistakenly placed a poly vault in the deceased's grave. Respondents indicated this mistake was corrected immediately. 4. The burial information was in the obituary. Respondent provided an email, screenshot from the newspaper's website, and screenshots from its own website describing burial services. 5. Chairs and the register book were taken to the complainant's home. As to the complainant's interpersonal interactions with respondent funeral director, respondents indicated respondent funeral director treats all families the same and they have not received any other such complaints from any other families. Respondents also indicated that because the family stated the services would be a financial burden to them, respondent funeral director advised the family could pay 60% upfront and the rest after services were rendered. The family still owes the respondent establishment the remaining 40% of the total for services rendered. Legal's recommendation would be to close the complaint against the establishment and also close the complaint against the funeral director.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bridges, a second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the report is complaint number 2018049971 against a funeral director with no disciplinary history. Complainant alleged respondent embezzled money from a funeral establishment and obtained several credit cards in the funeral home's name, but used them for personal purchases. Respondent denied these allegations. Complainant reported the matter to the police. It is our understanding this matter is being investigated. Legal's recommendation would be litigation monitoring.
Accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bridges, a second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor?
Aye.
The next three items, items 10, 11, and 12 on the legal report are cases with our attorney Pamela Spicer. I will go ahead and read these in and read her summary of these cases as well. So the complaints here are complaint number 2018042731 against an establishment, complaint number 2018042751 against a funeral director, and complaint number 2018042771 against an embalmer. All three have some disciplinary history. Based on anonymous complaint of unlicensed activity, an investigation was performed. The complaint cited two testimonials found on the respondent's website. However, the results of the investigation found the complaint to be unsubstantiated. Recommendation: closure.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bridges, a second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the legal report.
Thank you, Ms. Gino. Next on the agenda is Director's Report. Mr. Gribble?
Good morning, Mr. President and board members. The first thing I'd like for us to look at is the financial data for fiscal year 17-18, and we'll look at the financial recap, if that's okay. Covers a period of July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018. Financial data was provided by to the board's executive director by the Assistant Commissioner's Office for Regulatory Boards of the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance on October 29, 2018 for use in the compilation of this report. The board's beginning balance on July 1, 2017 was $1,104,372. The net revenue or earnings for July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018 was $792,260, which makes total funds available of $1,896,632. The expenditures for July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018 was $399,885. The callbacks are allocations charged to the board from Administration, Investigation, Legal, and Customer Service Center. Those callbacks totaled $259,487, which made a total of expenditures, including the callbacks, of $659,372, which leaves a reserve balance of July 1, 2018 of $1,237,260. And you can dig deeper into that data on the next page, which is a 3 or 4 year recap there that you can look at and see kind of how things are trending and how the changes are, and where the information to get this financial recap was obviously pulled from this more detailed data. If you want to take a few minutes to look at it, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have, just to kind of familiarize you with it again. I know you look at this on a yearly basis, but it's been a year since we looked at it. So up at the top, those are the payroll expenditures for the past 4 fiscal years, and broken down by salary and wages. Longevity, that's the pay that the employee receives on their anniversary date of employment. Employee benefits, and you can see the payroll expenditure totals there. And the other expenses start with travel and go through the state professional services there. That shows a grand total of those expenditures, which if you look at the past 4 years, it's pretty consistent. Going back to FY 14-15, the total expenditures of the board was $387,109. Next fiscal year, 15-16, it was $370,473. FY 16-17 was $386,588. And then FY 17-18 was $399,885. And then next you will see the cost back section. I will point out in fiscal year 14-15, legal cost backs were still included in administration at that point in time. Cost backs you see administration, investigation, legal, field enforcement, and the customer service center. And then likewise, you go down and see the total of cost backs from fiscal year 14-15 all across and comparatively speaking through through fiscal year 17-18. Next line being the total expenditures.
I noticed, I think I harped on this once before. I noticed the customer service center has over doubled their expense, which is not a whole lot, but do they have any explanation as to why it is so much, and is there ever any hope of the office being able to answer their own phones in the future? I hear a lot of complaints from licensees that it's hard to get to the office personnel, and the customer service center doesn't seem to know a lot about what people are calling about. I guess we need better customer service instead of less, and it seems like the total has over doubled. Do you have an explanation, or is that kind of
all the regulatory boards? Customer Service Center is a group of people who have been trained to answer the phones and answer tickets for all the regulatory boards, and their costs are relative to the services that they provide for us. No, I think that this is a plan for it to. The continued plan would be for the Customer Service Center to continue to answer all the initial calls, and if there's a question that the customer service agent has, then they will either email our JAB or one of the people in the office, which they consider a subject matter expert, or they'll send a ticket over for someone in the actual funeral board office to return the phone call. Of course, sometimes a period of time, we try to do it as soon as possible, but it depends on when we get the ticket and who's available and who needs to answer the question. Then it depends on how much time it is before the person's called back. But typically done the same day or the next day is what the goal is.
Do they have any explanation why it's over doubled for this year?
Well, it would be the number of people that they have working the customer service center, and then the number of services that they provide to the board, the amount of services. Of course, funeral board, comparatively speaking, is one of the smaller boards. When motor vehicle, cosmetology and barber and things like that. The cost this year was $8,820, and last year was $3,514. Year before that was $2,137. So I think that, probably they're fully staffed now, and that may be, like you said, it's not a, when you look at all the expenses, it's not a huge amount or a huge percentage of the expenses, but why that's double from one fiscal year to the other is probably because they're up and fully staffed now and finally transitioned into it in the beginning. And for the past year, it's been fully operational.
I too have received complaints like you've heard about problems contacting the office through customer service.
Well, Hannon, you want to kind of explain about the tickets and calls? You work with that on a daily basis as administrative manager for the board.
Yes. How the process works is if the customer service agent, they can't if they don't know the information, they'll send a ticket up to us and we'll respond to the ticket. It could be an email, a call, or you can request a call back. If anybody requests a call back, most likely that call back will come from the board itself, because we try to make sure we respond in a timely manner to make sure that everybody has the information that's needed. I can't really to explain anything else, but that's basically how the service works. And normally we have this system where we can send in our office messages, and if somebody calls and it's a simple question, we'll just email it. We'll just send the information through the inner office messenger. But if it's something that's more complex and we feel like an office expert needs to address that question, we'll ask them to either transfer the call over to us or send a ticket up to us so we can make sure the individuals get the correct information. So there's a couple of ways that we can handle it, but normally that's how the process is. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I'm sure this system was well-intentioned when it was created. But, to me, and I don't know the inner workings of the office, but to me it just seems like whether it's $100 or whether it's, $9,000, it's a waste, to be paying another agency, third party to do that when the office staff could answer the calls and probably take care of things more timely. But now only other question I'd have is I noticed the legal cost back has almost doubled also. Is that due to, did we just have a lot more in litigation? Do you know why that is the number that it is?
For fiscal year 17-18, it was $136,535, and for fiscal year 16-17, it was $70,674. Legal has gone to where we're billed as we use the attorneys. So for the amount of time that we use the attorney, then, and this was probably the first full fiscal year where that was in place. It's been that way for a while, and so the number of cases we have, the number of times that we consult with legal, and obviously the having things of that nature add more time to it. So we're billed on a use basis.
When the board assesses legal fees to a respondent, is that reflected in that figure, or is that somewhere else? If we had a hearing and the legal fees were assessed to the respondent, is that reflected in that figure, or since someone else is paying the legal fee?
Any hearing costs that are assessed to respondents would come back in revenue to the board. The expense here would be for expenses only for the attorney. there would not be any. It would not be offset by the revenue that the respondent would pay. It's this is strictly an expense, and the other would be back in revenue. When you assess hearing cost, then it comes back in revenue to the board and would be shown in the revenue or earnings part. The legal can explain about the hearing cost better than, when they're assessed to a respondent. They would know more about that, how those are figured than what I would. I know it has to do with the amount of time my thinking is it probably just includes investigation and the APD is Administrative Procedures Division, what we get billed for. And there's not any, we don't assess legal fees when we do hearing costs, do we?
No, so with what I think you're talking about with hearing costs, it would be like the cost to file the action, the APD stuff. So the judge's bill as well as like the court reporter bill and things like that. And administrative judges have within their discretion, if they're the ones that are hearing the case, to assess investigatory costs, just like the boards will have that too when they're hearing a case. They will have the authority to do investigatory costs, but that would be like the cost for, an actual investigator to go like collect information or things like that.
So in summary, whenever the hearing costs are assessed to respondent, there's nothing included for the legal fees for the board's attorney.
Okay.
It would include those other things
And
that
that-
you mentioned: investigation costs, the hearing costs from Administrative Procedures Division, and then the investigation cost.
That's customary department-wide.
Process is customary. It depends on each board as to whether they assess the cost, or the administrative law judge as to whether he or she would assess the cost against a respondent. That might vary from board to board or from ALJ to ALJ, but the process would still be the same in all boards.
The revenue comes back in on case and complainant revenue that you were speaking of earlier. Is that where that flows back into?
Yes. Which, if we go down and look at that, you can see that, well, it's been up and down some, but going back to the case and complaint revenue is exactly, that's money that the board receives from consent orders or from hearing costs. And in FY 14-15 is $53,000, and then going over to FY 17-18 it was $30,030. So that, and we don't budget for that. We get asked, well, is there a target amount that sometimes the field reps get accused of having to write so many citations. No. We don't want to write citations. We want people to be compliant. We don't want to write notices of warning, whether it be a citation or warning. But there's nothing budgeted for case and complaint revenue. When we do budgets, we don't budget for that. That's the money that people pay in civil penalties and hearing costs because of their violations. Of course, the licensing revenue, and as you're aware, every other year that's up and down because we have our largest number of renewals on June the 30th of the even numbered years. The regulatory fee, that's a fee that has to be paid to Finance and Administration, and that's based on the number of licensees we have, and then we break that back down to net revenue. And then the fiscal year balance, that is for each year within itself as to whether the board either, what I would say, showed a profit or showed a loss. And every other year is going to be, one year is going to be a profit, the next year is going to be a loss, and then it's going to go back over. There is one thing that I would point out to you, that our fiscal year balance or profit for 15-16 was $258,000. Let's just round that off to $260,000. And for fiscal year 17-18, it was $130,000 or $132,889. So it's about half of what it used to be. So and we need to be, each board has to be sufficient, or we are subject to sunset. Something we need to be aware of. Even though we've got a very healthy physical reserve, it's, but I still think we're fine with the fee reductions that the board did in this last rulemaking hearing to help those that are initially getting into funeral service. But it's just something for us to watch and something to be aware of. And then the next line, the prior fiscal year reserve balance, core expense, and then the reserve balance after core expense. And of course, you see there's not any core expense in any of those 4 years there. So whatever the reserve balance is, then that remains the reserve balance after the core expense. And as I mentioned earlier, the reserve balance July 1, 2018 is $1,237,260.
Has the number of licensees grown over the years, or is it decreasing?
It's pretty static. When you look at it from about 15 years ago, it's still pretty static. About 3,200 licensees or registrants of the board. It'll vary a little bit one way or the other, but as a general rule, the new people coming in and then the people that either license lapse or pass away generally stays pretty much about the same. The age population of our licensees is extremely high. We have we've not looked at it in the last few months, but the last time we looked at it, there's a large percentage of our licensees that are 65 or above. What may be happening is, because I hear from board members and I hear from establishments across the state that they have a hard time finding employees that are licensed. So what may be happening is, as their licensees get older, they're not practicing. Even though we've got about the same number of licensees that we had a few years ago, we may not have as many people that are employable or wanting to be employed or practicing still. But many still keep their licenses.
We have no way of knowing how many licensees are active and those that are inactive, do we? Because there's some that may retire at 75 and they want to keep their license in force and until they die.
Since we don't have a retired license, so to speak, then we have to assume that all of them are active and practicing to some extent, or at least they're maintaining the requirements to maintain their license.
There's just no way to gauge the workforce, I guess.
You know that percentage of the 65 or older?
I would need to look, Mr. Duffer, and check and see. It's astounding, to be honest with you.
North of 80, north of 90?
I don't think it's that. Why don't we get that information and provide it to you? I'll send you an email. I think the last time we broke it down in 5-year brackets, after maybe we did 40 and below, and then 40 to 45, 45 to 50, and 55 to 60, 65 to 70, and then maybe above. And send it to you in an email so you can see what it is. It will be the people who will be either licensed or registered. The way our system is now, when we say a funeral director, also an apprentice funeral director, we're not. I guess we could differentiate, but probably we'll look at it and we'll be clear when we send you the information as to which it is. But we'll get okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Other questions about the financial data? Anytime you have a question, feel free to ask me, because we want to be transparent to the board. We want to be transparent to the public about what our revenues are, what our expenses are, and what our financial position is. Legislative update. We have not been notified by either the Tennessee State Funeral Director and Morticians Association or the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association of any new legislation that they intend to pursue during the upcoming legislative session. Report of license is administratively approved by the Executive Director pursuant to Board authority for the period of October 9, 2018 through November 12, 2018. You have the establishments listed, the types of actions or changes there, and the individuals and types of licenses that were issued to them. Closed establishment report for this board meeting. There's one establishment that's reported closing since the last board meeting. That's Click Hawkins Chapel, which was located at 102 B Street in Lenore City, Tennessee. Disciplinary action report for November 13, 2018 board meeting. This is a report of the consent orders that have been administratively accepted or approved by the Executive Director pursuant to Board authority and as reported on the November 2018 Regulatory Board's disciplinary action report. And you have 4 different ones that are listed there, where they're located, what their violation was, and the action that was taken against them. Complaint report for today. We did this report as of Friday. Ms. Bohannon ran it Friday because yesterday was a state holiday. So as of November 9, 2018, we had 24 complaints, either against funeral directors and or embalmers, and 26 against funeral establishments, for a total of 50 complaints. That, unless you have other questions.
Motion to approve the director's report.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McKinney, a second by Mr. Duffer to approve the report. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the approval of license applications.
President, there are no individuals to come before you today, and there is one establishment. The establishment to be considered is Premier Funeral and Cremation Services, LLC, which is located 805 Bradford Avenue, Suite 104, here in Nashville, Tennessee, at 37204. It's a new establishment, a limited liability company, and the owners are Premier Funeral and Cremation Services, LLC, 500 8th Avenue South, Nashville, Tennessee, 37203. And before you today is Ms. Green. I'll ask her to introduce herself and make whatever kind of opening statement she'd like to make.
Good morning. My name is Dolbrita Green. I'm a first-generation funeral director and embalmer, and I'm here to be granted an establishment license for Premier Funeral and Cremation Services.
Ms. Green, if you'll just give us a moment to look at your information.
Mr. Gribble, is all the paperwork in the office in order?
It is, Mr. McKinney.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve this application.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McKinney, a second by Mr. Davis to approve this application. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mrs. Green.
President, that's the only establishment application to appear before you today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gribble. Is there any new business that needs to come before this body?
I have one thing, Mr. President. As the board members will notice that Mr. Mark Cochran was not here at this meeting today, and we have a letter that we just received while we've been in this meeting this morning from him. It's dated today and addressed to President Rahm. This letter is to inform you of my resignation from the State of Tennessee Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers. On November 6, I was honored to be elected by the people to the 23rd House District to serve in the Tennessee General Assembly. Since the Funeral Board is a rulemaking body, I believe my immediate resignation is necessary to avoid any perceived conflict of interest. I can't tell you what an incredible privilege it has been to serve on this esteemed board with my fellow members who are true professionals and credits to their field. It was an unexpected opportunity when I was first appointed by Governor Haslam, but it is one that I'm very thankful was afforded to me. I know the valuable experience I have gained will serve me well in the legislature. Thank you again. I look forward to working with you in my new capacity. Sincerely, Mark Cochran, State Representative.
We do wish Mr. Cochran well in his new venture as a state representative. Anything else? I'll open the floor for adjournment.
Move. Second.
Meeting adjourned.